Andy is a very good ice cross swimmer. One day, he participates in a school swimming competition. Winning this competition is very important to Andy, because the winner of that competition will get a scholarship to a famous campus. So, Andy, who lives a very difficult life, does not want to miss this chance at all. Since this is a very valuable opportunity for him, he worked hard and even trained hard to win the competition. But luck was not on Andy's side. He somehow did not get the chance to win the competition. Not only that, Andy's crush and his friends had also started avoiding Andy. Andy did not like his friends avoiding him like this. Because of this, Andy promises to do whatever his friends ask. Because of this, Andy's friends tell him to steal beer from the store where his mother works, but his friends play a prank on Andy and leave him. Because of this, Andy is also caught by the store owner. After a while, Andy's father Jim, who comes there, starts scolding his aunt about Andy's work. Also, Andy's mother soon loses her job because of Andy. Because of Andy's stubbornness, who has been caught stealing 3 times before, Jim Walton decides to send Andy to live with his brother Trent, who lives on a distant island. Andy is not ready to accept this decision of his parents, so he decides to run away from home. In the meantime, Andy accidentally finds an old antique watch that belongs to his father. So, Andy's work is caught by his younger brother Mark, and Mark shouts about Andy to the whole family. The next morning, his parents take Andy and Mark to the ferry. Andy is really sad. After losing both his friends and his scholarship, Andy feels like his parents are abandoning him. When they get to the pier, they meet Trent. Mark is very eager to go with Trent, but Andy is not very interested in living with Trent. But Jim says that he is doing this because he wants Andy to learn to live responsibly by taking care of his sick brother as well as himself. Mark has a severe ear infection. Because of this, Andy has no choice but to obey his father's orders, no matter how much he doesn't like it. After getting everything ready, they set off on a boat to go to Trent's house. After arriving at Walton Island, Trent takes Andy and Mark to his house. After looking at a map of the island, Mark sees that Trent's house is a long way from town. It will take another hour to get there. There were not many people on that island. Also, the island is very mysterious. Trent says that this island used to belong to their family. But later, a very rich businessman named John has acquired the rights to this island. John comes and goes to this island from time to time in his private plane. While talking that night, John says that his family used to be a very rich family. But after his father, Andy's grandfather, mysteriously disappeared in a shipwreck, their wealth has disappeared unimaginably. Andy's grandfather had hidden all his property in a place where no one can find it. No matter how much Trent tries to find this great wealth, it is of no use. Because of this, Trent has finally had to live as a poor man with nothing. Hearing these things, the foolish Andy runs away from home and tries to find his grandfather's treasure alone. But it doesn't work. He just entered the forest. Someone grabs him by the arm, but when he finds out that it is Walter's grandson, that person releases Andy. When Andy returns home, he thinks that the antique clock that his father picked up will help him find this treasure. Also, Mark says that Trent told him about their grandfather's treasure hidden in a place with many mysteries. Hearing this, Andy wants to find this treasure even more. So, Andy realizes that this clock also belongs to his grandfather. Inside was an encrypted secret message that said, "The gift of time." While Andy was searching for more clues, Trent, who came there, caught Andy's watch. It was late at night, so Trent told Andy to go to sleep. On the 4th day, while Andy and Mark were looking after Trent's shop, Andy saw a girl looking at a necklace there. So, this was Andy's crush from school, Claire. It seemed that she had come to this island for a vacation, but she was already tired of being here. That's because this island is so far away from other places. Andy, who wanted to make the most of the opportunity, invited Claire to go for a walk around the town with him and Mark. While they were passing through a forest, they accidentally saw a warning. So the 9 people who went into this forest never came out again. That's why there are 9 crosses made for those 9 at the entrance to the forest. We can see that after listening to Claire's story, Andy and Mark feel a great desire to sneak into this forest. But Claire doesn't like it at all. Therefore, after Claire leaves, Andy goes to find Mark, who ran into the forest like a madman. While returning to find Mark, Andy is dragged into a hole there. Therefore, Mark quickly goes to get help from Trent. But more than an hour has passed and Mark has not returned, so Andy gets very worried. Luckily, Trent arrives there shortly after and manages to save Andy. Trent starts scolding Andy and Mark for going into that forest without even telling him. Trent also knows that these two are struggling to find their grandfather's treasure. Therefore, Trent strongly warns them never to go into that forest again. The next day, Andy and Mark are gathering lobsters for dinner, and a lobster hangs from Mark's hand. A man who arrives just in time manages to help Mark. So, it turns out to be John, the owner of this island and Claire's father. When he finds out that Andy is the grandson of Walton, John invites Andy to dinner at their new home, Andy's grandfather's old house. Therefore, before going there, Andy goes to Claire Tran's shop that day and steals the necklace that Claire was waiting for. But this time, Andy Tran is caught. Andy says that he bought the necklace to give to Claire because he was going to Claire's house for dinner that day. However, Trent didn't like this at all. Trent tells Andy to be careful with John. That's because John is a very cunning man. Trent says that John will try to use Andy to get them out of here. That's because John has tried several times before to get Trent out and turn this island into a resort. Knowing all this, Andy goes to dinner, and John welcomes him very warmly. While they are talking, John suddenly asks Andy about his grandfather's treasure. But Andy starts acting like he doesn't know anything about it. John says that Andy's grandfather had millions of dollars. After a while, John gets a call from John and tells Andy to stay outside until he arrives. Claire, who sees Andy, asks Andy to show them around their house. That's because they are getting ready to demolish the house. While walking, Andy asks Claire about Claire's mother. Claire says that her parents divorced when she was young. Andy, who is saddened by this, says that at least Claire was born into a wealthy family. With the money that John gives her, Claire can live very comfortably. Claire, who is a little confused after hearing this story, says that having money does not make a person's life better. Also, Claire says that if Trent had not lost a bet with his father, the house would still belong to them. After this incident, Andy, who quickly runs home, starts looking for Trent everywhere. But instead of Trent, Andy finds another old antique watch, just like his father's. Trent, who comes around at that moment, takes the watch from Andy. Andy thinks that the watch may contain a new clue to finding the treasure, so he tells Trent to find the treasure before someone else does. But since finding the treasure is impossible, Trent forbids Andy from searching for it. Andy gets very angry when he hears this. This is because Trent won't let him do anything. So they end up having a big argument, and when Trent tries to explain something to Andy, Andy leaves. After a while, Mark comes to see Andy and asks Andy about the clues he found. So Andy tells Mark everything. Mark thinks he can solve the puzzle, but if Andy wants to know, Andy will have to get Mark involved in the treasure hunt. Then, Mark takes Andy to the beach that night. That's because Mark thinks they can find clues in the star patterns. They wait, hoping for something, but they both end up falling asleep there. Andy, who is very fed up with this, tells Mark to go home, saying, "You idiots." Trent scolds them for going to the beach alone in the middle of the night without telling him and locks their bikes. Claire arrives a little later and apologizes to Andy for what she said at dinner. Andy doesn't answer, so he leaves to go home. But suddenly, Andy calls him and asks him to go to the beach with him that night. Clay also agrees to this immediately. That night, the couple leaves with Mark to go to the beach. There, Andy gives Claire the necklace he stole from Trent's shop. Clay also gives Andy a necklace with a key as a gift, but Andy says no. So Mark jumps up and takes the necklace from Claire's hand, telling Andy to give it to him if he doesn't want it. So Andy gets angry and tries to get his brother out of Mark's way, to get rid of Mark. Andy tells Mark to take a look at the lighthouse at the end of the beach. At first, Mark doesn't like it, but when he realizes that his brother wants to be alone with his girlfriend, Mark goes towards the lighthouse. After Mark leaves, the couple starts talking very affectionately, and finally, they share their feelings for each other. Meanwhile, Mark, who goes to the lighthouse, suddenly notices something there. So, he screams and goes back to where Andy was sitting, and Mark ruins their romantic date. Mark says that there is another clue to find the treasure in the lighthouse. So, the star pattern that Andy's grandfather told Mark was waiting for is not really a star pattern in the sky. The name of this lighthouse is Polaris. So, since Polaris is the name of a star, Mark understands that Andy's grandfather is referring to this lighthouse. So, Andy, who quickly goes to the lighthouse, starts looking for more clues. Andy finds another clue in a wall clock there, but unfortunately, according to that clue, they have to go to Andy's grandfather's old house, which is Claire's current house. Trent locked their bike, so they steal Trent's car and set off to go to Claire's house. After entering the house and slowly going to meet her father, Claire steals a key from a secret room belonging to John, who thinks it has the answer to the question Andy is looking for, takes it and hands it over to Andy. Slowly entering the room, Andy finds a typewriter. Therefore, Andy types in the code they found in the lighthouse. As soon as the code is entered, a secret door opens there with a loud noise. Hearing this sound, John also rushes towards the secret room. But luckily, he takes a gun and is able to enter the secret door before John gets there and gives Andy a mark. After John leaves, Andy and Mark walk around the secret room. There is a key and a strange box. Since they don't know what it is, they decide to take it, thinking it must be very important. Andy and Mark quickly run out of the room and go to the car, but they are very scared when they see Claire suddenly come out of the car. Claire tells John that she gave Andy the key to the room, and that's why they should run away from there quickly before John finds them. So, Andy and Mark quickly leave for home. After returning home, Andy asks Trent to forgive him for stealing his car. So, somehow, Trent forgives Andy. Trent tells him a story about his past where he has made many mistakes like this before and he has a lot of regrets. Then, Trent tells Andy to come to his room. Then, Andy opens a box near Trent and sees it. Trent has won many swimming competitions. Here, Andy's hand hits a glass bottle and it falls to the ground and shatters. Inside it was a letter written by Trent. Andy is shocked after reading it. So in that letter, Trent wrote a message to Andy to apologize for not being Andy's father. Unable to think of anything, Andy reads everything on the papers there. So finally, Andy realizes that his father is not Jim, but Trent. Because of these things, Andy's whole body goes numb, as if struck by lightning. Andy, who is very confused, gets into Trent's car, drives fast, and goes into the forest alone and starts looking for the treasure like a fool. Andy sees a sign painted on a tree. Suddenly, a strange device that Andy brought from his grandfather, John's house, starts making a sound. As soon as Andy presses a red button on the device, a secret door on the floor opens. So, without thinking twice, Andy quickly enters through that door. But it only took a few seconds for Andy's happiness to disappear. There were 2 keyholes there that needed to be opened with 2 keys at once. But Andy only had 1 key. As a result, the door that Andy entered suddenly closes and Andy is trapped inside the room. Andy tries to talk to Mark on the radio he has, but it doesn't work. Meanwhile, we see Andy's mother and Jim coming to Trent's house after learning that Andy and Mark are missing. Here, Trent and Jean start arguing, which makes things a little worse. Claire quickly intervenes and says that the 2 brothers are definitely looking for treasure in the forest. So the group decides to go to the forest to find Andy and Mark. Meanwhile, Andy keeps calling Mark on the radio, trying to somehow contact Mark. Suddenly, Mark, who is talking on the radio, asks Andy where he is. Andy, who is very happy to hear his brother's voice, tells Mark where he is. So, in the end, Mark is able to save Andy. Mark says that even though Andy is not his own brother, he really loves Andy as much as his own brother. Andy, who goes back downstairs after a while, tells Mark that they need 2 keys to open that door. So that other key is nothing but the key necklace that Mark took from Claire at the beach. So Andy and Mark put both keys in at the same time and open the lock. And they find their grandfather's treasure that they have been searching for so many days. So the treasure that they found is the biggest gold mine in the whole world. So the happiness of Andy was not increased. That's because John comes there at that moment to get the treasure. John has also been trying to find the Walton family treasure for so long. That's because John had helped Andy's grandfather to keep this treasure for a while. But Andy's grandfather had not given John a penny. Suddenly, the door is locked there. It was written on that door that only a Walton family member can open that door. John forces Andy and Mark to open that door. But they don't like it. John, who is very angry, pushes Mark into the sea. Andy, who is angry, jumps into the sea with John. Mark starts screaming for help. Trent, who hears Mark's screams, quickly jumps into the water and manages to save Mark. But unfortunately, Andy, who is caught in a strong wave, starts to sink quickly. Therefore, without thinking twice, Trent jumps back into the water to save his son. After a while, Trent somehow manages to pull Andy to the surface. But in the end, Trent loses consciousness. But Andy does everything he can to save his father in great pain. Andy starts crying loudly because the way he treated Trent for so long is the worst. But luckily, thanks to Andy's efforts, Trent regains consciousness by letting the water out. This finally makes Andy realize that he wants to be a good son to his father. So the next day, the police find John's body, who had drowned. Because of this, Claire has to leave the island to attend her father's funeral. After a while, Trent visits Andy, and the two start talking very intimately to each other. Trent says that after losing his wife 15 years ago, Trent had a serious mental breakdown. He was afraid that it would affect Andy too, so he left Andy with Jim and separated from him. So, no matter what, Andy is finally ready to accept Trent as his real father. So, now that John is dead, the Walton family regains ownership of the island he bought for money. So, in this way, the Walton family reunites once again. They understand that the only purpose of Andy's grandfather leaving a puzzle to solve in this way is to reunite the Walton family one day. So, the movie ends like this. So, if you think this video is good, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our channel to continue watching great movies like this. And see you again in another brand new video.